important thing to think about is files jointly versus files separately. If that file separately is going to potentially add value in your circumstances, you want to run those numbers. Welcome to Finance for Physicians, the show where we help physicians like you use money as a tool to live a great life. I'm your host, Daniel Wrenne, and I've spent the last decade advising physicians on their personal finances, with the mission to help them understand that taking control of their finances now means creating a future where they can practice medicine where, when, and how long they want to. Mr. Wenger, Jeffrey, how are you, bud?
Oh man, it's been a cold winter with lots of
I know.
snow this year.
Yep.
But
We're getting some today.
yeah, we had a little bit. It's nothing like a couple of weeks ago where we just kind of kept digging and digging and digging.
Yep. Well, it's a season of cold and winter weather, but it's also a season of tax preparation. We're not going to talk too much about taxes, maybe a little bit.
Hmm.
But in particular, we're going to talk about student loans, which Jeff and I love talking student loans. But we will talk, so there'll be some tax topics we're going to cover today as they relate to student loans. So we'll dip into a little bit of that and then talk some student loan updates. So does that
Yeah.
sound like a good plan?
Speaking of taxes, yeah, have you done your taxes yet?
I have submitted 100% of what was requested to prepare the
Oh,
business's taxes and personal taxes. Now, it's in their court. That doesn't always
nice.
mean
Okay.
that it's going to get done on time. I hopefully it is, but yes,
Nice.
I've done my taxes.
Nice.
How about you?
So I still prepare my own taxes at this
Oh,
point.
yes.
Yeah, I know,
TurboTax.
right? It's been H&R Block. I got the
All right,
history
all right.
there now, so it's not
You know
worth
what?
the transition.
I probably would be still preparing my. I don't know.
But I used to like take a like if there was a day off in like November or I was, just a day off at some point, I'd be like, "Ooh, I'm going to pre-run my income tax return just for a fun day off." And I've changed. I haven't done that in the last couple
Yeah,
of years, so
yeah,
um but yeah, so that'll be fun. Do
nice.
a nice little tax return. I always like doing that. I don't know.
Yeah, Jeff's a
Just
geek like
love
that. I
reading
mean,
tax
I
return.
I am as well. So, um, okay, so student loans. So we're going to talk save plan. The save plan is, well, give us an update, Jeff. I'm gonna.
Yeah, yeah. So, of course, the save plan, right, introduced several years ago, and then it's been at the center of some litigation for a couple of years now. I think actually it's been on pause for almost 2 years, a year and a half about now at this point, a little bit longer. But so we got a lot of people. This was a plan that repay transitioned into save and then it's been put on ice for a while, but there's a lot of people on it still.
Mhm.
And since July of 2024, it's been in a forbearance. Well, as of December, there was an announcement from the court that is hearing that case that said, hey, a settlement has been reached. It's been, it was still awaiting approval, but it would end the save plan, and that borrowers on that plan would need to transition to a new plan or a different plan shortly, soon. Uh,
Yeah,
Not a definition of when soon is,
that
but
sounds about right. So anywhere from like next tomorrow to 3 years from now, probably.
yeah, I think tomorrow to 3 years from now is probably a reasonable range. I mean, you're pretty safe with that one. I think probably two of the likelier options, and this is just crystal ball land. So when I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I was thinking that maybe as this is approved, maybe when there are income driven dates that come around, that might be a time that it happens. Or with the introduction of the repayment assistance plan, the RAP plan from the administration this summer,
Hmm.
might also be a time where they go ahead and say, we are going to force you off. You got to make a decision now.
Hmm.
And maybe if you don't make a decision, you're going to our new beautiful plan, the repayment assistance program. So
Yep.
that's my
Okay.
guess. But
Well,
in any case, sometime in the next year, I think is pretty realistic.
So more info to come on that. It's still kind of vague, but there is a little bit of definition. And it is ending. So soon, we'll say. Um, okay, so
Yeah.
taxes, if we're preparing for taxes, what do my student loans have to do with my taxes?
Oh, well, with taxes and student loans, of course, all these payment plans, the pay as you earn, income based repayment, income contingent repayment, and that new wrap plan that's coming out will all be, they're defined. They calculate your payment based on the adjusted gross income or AGI, and uh, that's certainly a tax term, tax lingo. That's actually it's a really important number just for a lot of different calculations that are out there. Um, but basically, they take that number, and then if you want to be really simple, you could say whatever plan you're on, 10 or 15% of that gives you about what your payment would be. With most of the plans that are out there, there's still another like poverty level factor that gets deducted. So it changes things from there. But big picture, AGI determines what your student loan payment will be.
Yeah, and it's a delay too because it doesn't determine your payment now because you kind of have to think ahead. Um, the maybe 1 or 2 years from now. It's like when you go to do income recertification at some point in the future, or I guess the next time you do income recertification after having filed the current tax return would be when we would be when those numbers would be coming into play, right?
Right, right. So, Daniel, did you know that? I know you know this, but that I think it's just sweet that student loans they have an anniversary. Like
Hmm.
it's February still while we record this, the month of love, right? And even your student loans have an anniversary, and that date is sometimes buried deep in your student loan text file. Sometimes the servicers kind of have it out there, like your next recertification date is such and such. But at that date, so let's say Daniel, you had student loans, and in July of 2026 is your next recertification date. At that point, the default is to go back and say, what was your most recent tax return? And
Hmm.
they will pull AGI from that to determine what your
And
payment will be.
it's that's where they get the percent. They basically take a percentage of your AGI, sometimes a little more complicated than that, but like 10 or 15% of your AGI ish. And that sets your,
Yeah.
so that's your annual payment for your student loans for the next 12 months. And so if
Mhm.
you're going for PSLF, that has major, well, I mean, really it's important anytime, but especially if you're going for PSLF, ideally your payment is as low as possible at all times. So it has major impact potentially on that dollar amount.
Right. Right. So I can think of there are probably two kind of big things to factor in when you're thinking about that payment calculation, and that's how do you well again the question is how do you keep the AGI low for student loan payments? And so two questions that come up are usually should I file together or separately from a spouse?
Mhm.
Because if you file together, your AGI from you and your spouse, all income gets funneled into one spot and it shows up as one big number. If you file separate, each person has their own tax return, and then each person has their own AGI. So that's one question to be considered. And the other is the timing. Like, do I want to use this year's tax return or not? So I think those are two questions to get into and explore.
Yeah. Well, so I think maybe for today, at a minimum, big picture is like the filing status of filing jointly versus filing separately. That's super important to be aware of around tax time. The year's already done. This is, February 2026. So 2025 is
Mhm.
done. There's nothing much you can do about your income at this point, other
Yeah.
than you can choose potentially to file taxes separately, which can have major impact on your student loan payments in certain circumstances. But that gets complicated. Um, I would say we could dig into that, but it's gonna we don't want to put you to sleep and get into the weeds when it's not applicable. to everybody, but that's just important thing to think about is files jointly versus files separately. If that file separately is going to potentially add value in your circumstances, you want to run those numbers. And then the timing is the second thing you
Exactly.
mentioned is like, well,
Yeah. So
that's
the
you can get aggressive with that. I mean,
oh yeah, I wasn't even
it's
going to go with the ultra
I know.
aggressive, but I guess I have to now that we mentioned
Yeah,
it.
I
But
teed it up, didn't I?
the easier choice on when I'm talking about timing now, we just mentioned Daniel has student loans. Sorry, Daniel. He has a recertification date. It's coming up this summer. And we said when you have recertification, they will pull your most recent tax return by default.
Hmm.
Like that's the option. So with taxes, one option you do have, you can extend your personal tax return until October of the year you're in. Basically, for any reason, it's an automatic extension. And so, if Daniel were to file an extension for the 2025 taxes that are due now, and he didn't have that actually filed until October, what's the most recent tax return on file?
The older one, which
The older one, 2024, so a whole
yeah.
year ago.
Now,
And so,
is it a legitimate, you said for any reason I can file an extension? Would one of those reasons be so that my student loan payment can be lower?
so I don't
I'm
think that would
pushing
be a
Jeff.
great reason. I think, yeah, you don't have to put a reason
Yeah.
on the
Well,
extension.
I think
It's automatically granted, but just say I need more time to figure out
right.
my taxes.
Technically, you need what I would suggest is like if you get audited, that's where they may go like on your
Mhm.
taxes. Like they may get into like poking big holes in your reasoning behind all like especially if you were like filing jointly, filing separately, filing jointly, filing separate, they're gonna be like, why what's up with that? Like why are you doing that? Um Now the IRS, so they might say, well, what's the reason essentially? And so I would not want to be in a position where I'm getting audited and I have to say I filed separately so that my student loan payment could be lower. Because that's kind of like a little bit of a it could be considered like the what do you call it? The rule, not the pro rata, but
So yeah, this is where I think it gets a little bit funky because there's such a thing as called the step transaction
there you
doctrine,
go, that
where
one.
with
That's like the catch-all rule.
taxes, yeah, with taxes, like basically, if you're taking multiple steps to get around a rule for taxes, they can go back and say, well, you just took multiple steps to do the thing you couldn't do, so you have
Could have
violated
null and
that.
voided.
And
Now,
um,
technically, the student loan thing is not a tax thing,
yes,
but
so
me personally, I wouldn't want to be in that position where I have to say that's my reason.
yes, so I certainly, I mean, consult whoever's working with your taxes on
Yeah.
this to work through it and file that extension. But yeah, in my I mean, I think as I'm thinking through it, I would be thinking, hey, if I was ever quizzed on this, I would be asking, I needed more time to figure out the best filing status for me.
Hmm. And consistency is also, I think, good for a case.
Mhm.
If you're having to make a case, it's like
Mhm.
I consistently need more time, and like I typically take the most time I can take, and I've filed extensions for the past 5 years, and that's not going to look super concerning. A lot of accountants automatically file an extension.
Mhm.
Like I know of
Yeah.
accountants that 100% they file extensions on 100% of their tax returns. Just like that's the default. Let's take a quick break to talk about our firm, Wrenne Financial Planning. The goal of our podcast is to empower you to make better financial decisions. But sometimes the best financial decision you can make is to work with someone who understands your financial goals and has the expertise to keep you on track to reach them. That's where Wrenne Financial Planning comes in. We are a full-service financial planning firm that works with over 400 physicians and their families across the country. We charge a transparent monthly flat fee for our services and offer virtual meetings you can take from anywhere. Best of all, you'll get to work with a team that specializes in working with physician families. So whether you're starting out and wondering how you'll balance your student loan payments and saving for a home, Or you are an established physician trying to figure out how to pay for your kid's college and how much you need to save to reach financial freedom, we can help. I'll put a link in the show notes to schedule a no obligation meeting with one of our certified financial planners. Wrenne Financial Planning LLC is a registered investment advisor. For more information about our firm, please visit wrennefinancial.com. That's WRENNE financial.com. So maybe that's enough tax for today. We don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
We got to talk about the PSLF buyback too. So,
But yeah, I think so. Just the timing of it, that's what to consider. Those, how do you
yep.
file separate or joint, because that impacts your payment, and it could significantly reduce it depending on how your incomes are set up.
Mm-hmm.
And then also just if you had a higher tax year in 2025 than 2024, that's something to consider, is does the timing of the filing impact that payment or the recertification?
Yep. So definitely two big things to think about. For sure, consult your tax advisor. Talk to us if you're working with us. We can throw in input. So PSLF buyback, that was the last point we were going to cover. We're going to try to do this in 5 or 10 minutes or less, and we're not going to be able to get through all this, but we'll at a minimum give some updates on it. So PSLF buyback.
Yeah.
What are we talking about here?
Yeah, PSLF buyback. Like that's something, or a program or an option that's impacting more and more people now as time has gone on.
Mm-hmm.
With the save forbearance, especially.
They didn't count.
Core idea. Yeah, I mean the core idea is that this buyback program exists to let the PSLF borrowers to pay for months that did not count in the past, as long as they coincided with a PSLF employer, so government employment, nonprofit. And this was introduced right before the save plan forbearance. And so I think the idea here was that there aren't going to be that many people that this is going to impact.
Now it's like everybody.
But with the save plan forbearance not counting, now there are a lot of people finishing up those 120 months of employment that have forbearance months that they want to go back and purchase. And so I guess maybe some quick stats here. These are going to sound like maybe put some people to sleep. If so,
just read them fast.
Hope it's peaceful rest. But in January, there's a backlog on these PSLF buyback requests now. It's up to 86,520.
So what does that mean for people? Does that mean that it's probably going to be super slow to?
So there are 86,000 in the queue at this point, and that's increased over the last month by about 3,000. So the queue is getting longer.
So don't expect them to process these applications for buybacks fast.
Right.
Maybe
in the last month, 2,400 or so were being actually processed. So that means that about 5,000 or so were actually submitted. Like between what was processed and the growth in that backlog, that means there are probably about 5,000 new ones that came in.
Okay.
And about 2,000 were actually approved.
So they're getting approved. They're getting approved. It's just slow.
Getting approved. It's slow. What that means, if you want to, now you can wake up from your nap, but if you were to submit an application, we'd be looking at a timeline, if they keep that pace up, for current ones in the queue of 2 years or more for the processing.
That's crazy.
And
this is at the end of your PSLF is when you apply for this, right?
Yes. Yeah. So you do need to already have the 120 months of employment to make this application. And so I guess anecdotally, I can verify from some of the families we worked with that the program exists and you can have your loans discharged through it.
And you have had people successfully buy back payments, right?
Yeah. We actually had, maybe this sounds like a small number, but our first one, my first one that I work with in the last month.
I mean,
this individual submitted it back in October of 2024. So it was 16 months or so. So, I mean, that was 16 months or so of waiting, but
But it's
earlier in February, got a letter that said, "Hey, this is it's been processed. We don't have you as owing anymore." So they
mhm.
didn't even have a payback amount. Um, if the Department of Education does say that you would owe something, you'd then have 90 days to make that payment. Since this person didn't have a payment due, they said your loans
But
are eligible for the buyback, and
and
we'll process forgiveness in 60 to 90 days.
that's a substantial value, well worth waiting a couple years in that.
It, I mean, it is. It's worth waiting for those that it makes sense to. I mean, fortunately, this individual needed like three payments and was a very
Oh, okay.
early person to apply.
But still
So he was
potentially,
one of those 2,400 that were processed last month.
yeah. Yeah. Well, at a minimum, I think the takeaway, if some of you guys are listening forgot about the buyback program, which easy to do, there's so many new changes to student loans. Um, it's still around, and if you're going for PSLF and you had periods of time where you were not making payments for various reasons, this potentially is a big benefit to consider, right?
Oh yeah, it's absolutely. I mean, if it applies to you, you should hopefully be planning to use it when it's your turn, basically.
You just
Um,
have to wait till the end. That's a kind of unfortunate. You got to wait till the very end of the PSLF period, which is, 120 payments.
right, and so I guess as I was thinking about this, I was thinking, well, what advice are we giving many of the families that we work with on this? And so I just wanted to give kind of a few action items that you might consider
Hmm.
if you just to put yourself in the best position for buyback, because I think more and more people, as that save forbearance has gone on, are actually already eligible with the employment that they have, and I mean that number just continues to grow at this point. Uh, but the first one that I had was actually there's not really a whole lot of help in staying in the save forbearance at this point. So if you are still working on those months, like I would consider getting onto one of those other repayment plans and just having, you know, current and future months already qualifying. Like take as much out of that equation as possible. Now that doesn't help with the months that are already in forbearance. So um, what do you do next? What I would suggest is to do a quick check on what's actually going to apply for you. What are the months that might be eligible? And so I would do that by get all your employment certified. So anytime you spend at a nonprofit or government job, you know, send in your PSLF form, have the employer sign off on it, get an up-to-date count of employment months. And then once that's processed, if you go to studentaid.gov, you can actually look at the history of payments and whether they're eligible or ineligible. And for everyone that says ineligible, there's a little drop down, and you can look at it and it'll give you the reason why it's ineligible. Some of them are going to have a couple of bullet points. One might say employment is not certified. So in that case,
Certified.
you need to certify it. But it would also say if there's one for forbearance or deferment or just a payment plan that didn't count for whatever reason. Those are the months if they already have the employment, or they will have the employment if you don't want to do the employer thing yet. Um, to note, say, hey, these are going to be the ones that I'm eligible to buy back, and start to count those in your possible PSLF count, because the tracker that's on there doesn't. So you're going to have to add those back in on your own to say, hey, how close actually am I?
So if I have 100 qualified according to their records, and then I see that I have 20 of these potential buyback months, then so I'm per my count, I'm at 120.
Oh, right. Yeah, exactly. So and that's going to, I mean, if that was the case, if you were in the save plan, especially this forbearance, you're probably at about those 20 forbearance months at this point anyway. So that might be you. Like if that
Yeah, I do have student loans.
um,
You
I
had
mean,
said earlier.
yeah. Yeah, he does, and he has to recertify them in in July. So get on that.
Correct.
Put
Yep.
mark it in your calendar, Daniel.
But if you're not at 120, you got to wait till the 120.
Yes. So for the actual buyback itself, and that's probably where I think I mentioned 2,400 applications processed, 2,000 were approved roughly. My guess, if I were to bet, is a lot of those were somebody that had forbearance months but didn't have the employment, and so I mean, there's a draw to like I want to get these counting, and so a lot of people apply, but
Mhm.
maybe didn't have that 120 months. So um, at this point, I would actually say, get to that 120 months, get that employment certification into your employer that month, get that process so it's already on the books for studentaid.gov to see their Department of Education, and then fill out that buyback form so that you're already in the easiest category to process. So,
Mhm.
that way you're not waiting for 20 months. Then you get the denial that, oh, you didn't have your employment certification up to date. Maybe you didn't even. I would still keep certifying employment after you submitted that, um, but yeah, I mean that would be terrible to just re-enter the queue after that and be like, I just never recertified my employment. And
Yes, it's an easy step.
yeah, um,
All
I
right.
guess if you're if you're one of those people that love student loans and are on the student loan forums and Reddits and things like that, there are a few different things that keep showing up there. Do they make any difference? We don't really know, but some people do them anyway. Some of them are low effort, some of them are higher effort, but some people have suggested that if they filed their complaint on studentaid.gov, then my application got processed. That doesn't mean there's a result of that complaint
Put you first in the queue.
necessarily, but that's a very low effort. Like that takes 5 minutes to go to studentaid.gov and submit a feedback complaint about it.
I bet they have a lot of them.
Um, I bet so. Um, a similar vein, and this is one that probably goes fewer places at this point because of the changes that have happened to the consumer protection bureaus and stuff like that. But you can try and file a case with the ombudsman with the student aid, and then maybe the highest effort one to work on, and maybe the possibly one that actually get a case looked at would be contacting your congressman's office about it. Say, hey, I've submitted for this. It's been 3 months, 6 months. It's been 10 years since I applied. Um, yeah, contact them before 10 years, I think. But
2 years. 2 years.
no,
1 year. 1 year, maybe.
yeah, at 1 year, yeah, make that contact anyway. Try it. Um, but yeah, just to say, hey, it's been this long. Well, I've been hanging in limbo. I've been paying my taxes. I've been voting for you the whole time.
And I'm thinking about not.
And
Unless.
just looking for resolution on this, and see if that helps to move the case to the front of the line at some respect. Again, those are not tried and true options. We don't know if there's a correlation between those. Some
Good
people
work.
report
Can't hurt.
they've done this, and then loans were forgiven. So,
Yeah.
again, effort versus reward. Some of those are easy. Some of those take a little more effort.
Nice. Well, any parting thoughts on? I think we hit the high points. Buyback, PSLF buyback options.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so if you're on save, get a plan to get off of save because it's going to change sometime. Like, be thinking about that. Tax time's upon us all, and it impacts student loans, and that buyback is impacting more and more people. So just put yourself in the best position to resolve that when it's time to.
Yeah, now's the time to be thinking about this. Like we're recording this in February. Maybe it'll come out in March, early March, but you want to give yourself some wiggle room where it's not like April 15th. You got to have a little lead time prior to filing your taxes, ideally, to look at this, especially related to the tax return. And so sooner the better.
Well, I guess if it's April 15th, you're probably going to do the extension.
Just file an extension, right?
You're going to do that strategy one way or the other. You're extending.
There we go. We got our reason. All right.
All right. Well, it was fun to talk taxes and student loans. Like nobody will talk to me about this stuff in my daily life. So I just appreciate the outlet to talk to you, Daniel.
Yeah, it's I enjoy it. I'll talk about it anytime. So thanks for coming on, Jeff.
All right. We'll see you again next time.
No guests or clients appearing on the podcast received any form of compensation for their appearance and obtained no other benefit from us. It should not be assumed that every client has had the same experience.